Hey everyone, so today's story is a difficult one for me to tell. It's about a guy the first knew back in film school. His name was Nate Fuller. Nate was, well, he was one of those people who just had more energy than everyone else. Always buzzing, always planning the next big thing. He was talented too. Genuinely. He had an eye for a shot that most of us would kill for. For his senior thesis project, while the rest of us were scripting predictable dramas in cramped apartments, Nate decided he was going to hike a huge chunk of the Appalachian Trail. Alone. He was going to document the whole thing, calling his project Finding Stillness. The irony of that title haunts me now. The police released the recovered footage and his journal to his family, and they, in turn, shared it with a few of us who were close to him. They wanted us to see the Nate we knew, the happy, adventurous guy, before the end. I've watched the files more times than I can count. It feels like a duty, I guess, to try and understand. The story I'm about to tell you is pieced together from those video files and the worn, water-stained pages of his journal. The first video file is labeled _ at _day 01 _gear _check .mp4 . The timestamp is for a bright, clear morning in early April. The camera is sitting on a motel room dresser, and Nate walks into the frame, grinning from ear to ear. He's got that look he always got when he was excited about a project, like a kid on Christmas morning. He's of average height, lean from running, with a messy mop of brown hair that he's constantly pushing out of his eyes. "All right, take one." "And action," he says, clapping his hands together with a loud smack. This is Nate Fuller, reporting live from the threshold of adventure. He does a goofy theatrical bow. Okay, seriously. This is it. The big one. My senior thesis, tentatively titled Finding Stillness, though I'm workshopping that. A little on the nose, maybe? He then spends the next 10 minutes geeking out over his equipment. He talks directly to the camera, to his future audience, with an infectious enthusiasm. So for you camera nerds out there, we're shooting on the Sony A7S III. I know, maybe overkill for a hiking documentary, but the low-light capabilities are insane, and a guy's gotta be prepared for those magic hour shots, right? He holds up the camera, turning it over in his hands like it's a precious jewel. Got it paired with a simple but beautiful G Master 24 to 70 millimeters. It's a beast, weighs a ton, but the image quality is worth every ounce. Audio is key, people. Audio is everything. So we've got the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus right here, plus a lavalier mic for my sit-down interviews with myself. He chuckles. It goes on like that. He shows off his brand new hiking boots, his meticulously packed backpack, his solar panels for charging his gear, his water filtration system. He's prepared. Over-prepared even. He seems completely in control. On top of the world. The video ends with him hoisting the heavy pack onto his shoulders, wincing slightly at the weight before breaking into another wide smile. 270 miles to Katahdin, he says, his voice full of awe. Next time you see me, I'll be in the wild. Wish me luck. Cut! The screen goes black. The next few video files are exactly what you'd expect. They are breathtakingly beautiful. Nate really did have an eye. There are long, sweeping shots of misty valleys at dawn, the sun's rays cutting through the fog like golden spears. There are close-ups of dewdrops clinging to spiderwebs, and time-lapses of clouds scudding across a brilliant blue sky. The audio is crystal clear. You hear the crunch of his boots on the trail, the constant symphony of birdsong, the rustle of a gentle breeze through the dense canopy of leaves. His narration over these shots is pure, unadulterated joy. _ at _day 02 _first _miles .mp4 . Oh man, you guys have to see this. His voice, slightly breathless, whispers over a shot of a doe and her fawn drinking from a stream. They haven't noticed him yet. This is what it's all about. This is real. _ at _day 03 _ridge _view .mp4 . The camera is on a small tripod, pointed at himself. He's sitting on a rocky outcrop, the whole world seemingly spread out behind him. I just did 12 miles today. 12! My legs feel like jelly, but my soul feels like it could fly. I haven't felt this clear-headed in years. No traffic, no deadlines, no noise, just this. He gestures to the vast expanse of green behind him. That night, he wrote in his journal. We have a photo of the page. The handwriting is neat, confident, the ink flowing smoothly. April 14th. Day 3. I've never felt freedom like this. It's absolute. Every breath of this clean air feels like it's washing away a year of city grime. I thought I might feel lonely, but I don't. It's a powerful solitude, not an empty one. The trail provides. I met a couple of thru-hikers today, Sundown and Cricket. They were heading south. We traded stories for a few minutes. Good people. They told me the next stretch is beautiful but a little more rugged. I'm ready for it. I was right to choose this. This place is heaven. In another clip, backquote at _day04_walking_talking.mp4, backquote, he's walking, the camera held out in front of him, selfie style. He's talking about the little tricks you use to keep your pace and morale up on a long hike. You find these little rhythms, he says, his voice puffing slightly with the effort of walking uphill. Like, you sync your breathing to your steps. In, 2, 3, 4. Out, 2, 3, 4. It helps. And I find myself humming. It's funny, I keep humming this one stupid tune. He lets out a soft, melodic whistle, a simple looping melody of about 6 notes. It's this old folk song my dad used to whistle when he was working in the garage. No idea what it's called. Haven't thought about it in years, but out here, it just popped into my head. It's kind of comforting, actually. A little piece of home out here in the middle of nowhere. He smiles and whistles the little tune again. It's an innocent moment. Listening to it now, knowing what comes later, it makes my blood run cold. It's on day 5 that the first wrong note appears. And it's so subtle I missed it the first 20 times I watched. I only saw it after another one of our friends, a professional editor, pointed it out. The file is backquote at _day05_forest_pan.mp4 backquote. It's late afternoon. The light is turning that deep golden color. Nate is setting up a panoramic shot, the camera moving slowly from left to right, capturing the immense scale of the old-growth forest. The trees are huge, ancient things, covered in moss. As the camera pans, it moves past 2 thick, dark tree trunks that are close together. For a fraction of a second, in the deep shadow between them, something is wrong. It's not a figure. It's not clear at all. It's just a smear. A flicker of vertical motion blur, as if something moved at the exact same speed as the camera's pan to stay hidden between the trees. It's the kind of thing your brain sees and immediately dismisses as a lens flare, a bug, a trick of the light. Nate obviously doesn't notice. He finishes his majestic pan, and you can hear him mutter, "Nailed it," under his breath, pleased with the shot. But I've watched it in slow motion, frame by frame. It's there. Something was there, something that wasn't a trick of the light. It was watching him. The feeling of peace from the first few days remains, for now. The footage from day 6 and the morning of day 7 is more of the same. Sun-dappled paths, babbling brooks, Nate's optimistic commentary. He films a squirrel, chattering angrily at him from a branch. He talks about the food he's eating, rating the different kinds of dehydrated meals. Everything is completely, utterly normal. He is a young man on an adventure, blissfully unaware. He's in control. He's safe. Then comes the file that marks the beginning of the end. It's labeled backquote at _day07_weird_find.mp4 backquote. The shot opens with the camera pointed down at Nate's boots as he walks along a narrow, muddy section of the trail. You can hear him humming that same little tune his dad used to whistle. The forest here is denser, the canopy thicker, casting everything in a dim, green-tinted light. He walks for about a minute, the only sounds being his footsteps and his soft humming. Then he stops. The humming ceases. "Huh," he says aloud to himself. The camera stays pointed at his feet for a moment, before he slowly crouches down. He adjusts his grip, and the frame tilts downwards, focusing on the ground just to the side of the trail. There, nestled against the gnarled root of a tree, half hidden by a patch of bright green moss, is something small. Something white. He reaches his hand into the frame, his fingers tentatively brushing away a damp leaf. The camera pushes in, the autofocus hunting for a second before snapping into sharp clarity. Lying on the dark, rich earth is a human tooth. An incisor, to be exact. It's yellowed with age, but what's strange is the small, perfectly drilled hole at the base of the root. Nate is silent for a long moment. You can just hear the sound of his breathing, a little heavier now. The camera stays locked on the tooth. It feels like an eternity. Finally he speaks, his voice a strange mix of curiosity and a faint, unidentifiable tremor of something else. "Whoa," he breathes out. "What is this?" I've watched the next part, the rest of the file labeled backquote at _day07_weird_find.mp4 backquote, so many times that the audio is burned into my memory. In the video, the camera holds steady on that little object, that yellowed incisor with the dark, perfectly round hole drilled through its root. It rests on Nate's palm. The forest is quiet around him. For the first time in any of the footage, you can't hear any birds. It's a dead, heavy silence, broken only by the sound of Nate's own breathing, which is coming a little quicker now. "Okay," he says, and his voice is thin. He's talking to the camera, to his theoretical audience, but it sounds like he's trying to convince himself. "So, that's a thing." He forces a laugh, but it comes out as a dry little bark. "Weird souvenir? Maybe some kind of hillbilly good luck charm?" He tries to grin into the lens, but it's a failure. It's just a twitch of his lips. His eyes, though. His eyes are what get me every single time I watch this. They're wide, and they're not looking at the camera anymore. They're darting, scanning the dense, silent woods behind the lens. He's suddenly aware that he is very, very alone out here. Or maybe, for the first time, he's afraid that he isn't. He stands there for what feels like a full minute, just holding it. Looking at it, then looking at the woods, then back at the tooth. You can almost see the debate happening inside his head. The film student in him, the documentarian, is probably screaming that this is gold. This is the unexpected twist, the bit of local color that makes a story interesting. But the human being in him, the guy who's miles from any other person, is clearly unnerved. Looking back, I just want to yell at the screen, "Drop it, man. Just drop it and walk away. Pretend you never saw it." But he doesn't. With a deep sigh, he brings his hand back toward his body. The camera follows. He carefully, almost reverently, places the tooth on a clean leaf. Then he shrugs off his huge backpack. It lands on the muddy ground with a heavy thud. He unzips a side pocket and pulls out a small Ziploc bag, the kind you'd put trail mix in. He opens it, the plastic making a soft crinkling sound that seems incredibly loud in the silence. He picks the tooth up again and drops it into the bag. He seals it, pushing the air out. The tooth is now preserved, cataloged. It's part of his gear. I'll ask a ranger about it at the next station," he mutters, more to himself than to the camera. "Probably some old Native American thing. Or something." He stuffs the little bag back into the side pocket of his pack and zips it up with a decisive pull. He looks into the lens one last time, that forced smile plastered back on his face. "And the adventure continues," he says, his voice trying and failing to recapture the cheerful energy of the first few days. Then the screen goes black. The next file is backquote at _day07_night_setup.mp4 backquote. The timestamp shows it's a few hours later. It's dusk. The vibrant greens of the forest have faded into a murky, indistinct gray. Unlike his previous evening videos, there's no time-lapse of the sunset. No artistic shot of his tent against the fading light. The camera is just on, sitting on a log, pointed at Nate as he goes about the mundane tasks of setting up camp. He moves with a strange new efficiency. There's no humming. No talking to the camera about his technique for staking down the guy lines. He just works. He unrolls his sleeping bag. He sets up his little cooking stove. Every movement is tense, coiled. He keeps stopping, his head cocked, listening to the woods. He does this 3 or 4 times in the 10-minute clip. He'll be in the middle of pumping the filter on his water bottle and just freeze, dead still, for 10-15 seconds before shaking his head and continuing. He never says what he thinks he hears. Watching it is agonizing. It's like watching a horror movie where you know the killer is already in the house. You can't warn him. You can only watch him become slowly, painfully aware of the danger. The woods don't look like heaven anymore. Through the lens of Nate's camera, they look like a cage. The final video from that day is inside the tent. Backquote at _day07_journal.mp4 backquote. The camera is propped up on his backpack, giving it a slightly high angle looking down on him. The only light is from the white LED of his headlamp, which casts sharp, deep shadows across his face, making him look gaunt and hollow-eyed. The cheerful, confident kid from the motel room is gone. This person looks haunted. He's got his journal open on his lap, a pen in his hand, but he isn't writing. He's just staring at the page. The audio picks up the sound of the pen tip tapping a frantic, irregular rhythm against the paper. Tap, tap, tap. Pause. Tap. Tap, 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 tap. Finally, He begins to write. The camera just records 10 minutes of him hunched over, scribbling. At one point he stops, chews on the end of his pen, and looks directly at the camera. He doesn't say anything. He just looks at it, and for a second, I feel like he's looking right at me, right through the screen, right across time, and his eyes are asking a question I can't answer. This is what he wrote that night. I know because the police gave us the photos of the journal pages. His handwriting, once so neat and confident, is now spiky and rushed. April 18th. Day 7. I can't stop thinking about the tooth. I should have left it. I know I should have. The moment I picked it up, the whole feeling of this place changed. It wasn't a gradual thing. It was like a switch was flipped. That freedom I was writing about just a few days ago, it's gone. Now the solitude feels predatory. I took it out again after I set up the tent. Wiped the dirt off it with my shirt. That was a mistake. It's a front tooth. An incisor. And the root is long. It wasn't knocked out in a fall. You can tell. And the hole is the strangest part. It's not rough. It's perfectly smooth, like it was made with a power drill. Who carries a power drill out here? Suha Phil. I keep trying to rationalize it. Some weird modern artist. Some survivalist making tools. But it feels wrong. It feels deeply, fundamentally wrong. Touching it gave me this cold feeling. Not just cold from the ground, but a deep, internal cold. It felt like I was holding something that was never supposed to be found. A piece of a secret. Something private and ugly. I put it back in the bag, and I buried that bag at the very bottom of my main pack, underneath my sleeping bag and my emergency rations. But I can still feel it. I swear I can. It's like a small, dense stone of wrongness in the middle of all my gear. It has a weight that's more than physical. The woods are different tonight. I've been sitting here in the tent for an hour, just listening. Before, the night sounds were comforting. Crickets, the wind in the trees. It was like a lullaby. Now, the silence is what's loud. It's an active silence. A watching silence. I keep thinking I hear things. A footstep. A whisper. I tell myself it's just a deer, or the wind, or my own imagination running wild. But I don't believe it. I zipped up the tent as tight as it will go. It feels flimsy. Like paper. I feel like I picked up a cursed object, and now whatever it belongs to knows I have it. He closes the journal in the video. The snap of the cover is loud in the small space. He turns and shoves the journal into his pack, next to the small plastic bag with its grim contents. He sighs, a long, shivering exhalation that fogs up in the cold air. He scrubs his hands over his face. He looks exhausted, defeated. Then he reaches up and clicks off his headlamp. The screen goes completely black. But the file doesn't end. The audio keeps recording. I imagine he just forgot, or didn't care enough to turn it off. For a long time, there's nothing but the sound of his breathing in the dark. It's a slow, rhythmic sound. In and out. In and out. And the sound of the nylon tent fabric rustling slightly in the night breeze. It's almost peaceful. For a second, you can almost believe he's just going to fall asleep. You can almost believe that everything will be okay. Then, a new sound enters the recording. It's clear. It's sharp. And it's close. Crack. It's the unmistakable sound of a heavy, dry branch being snapped underfoot. It's not the sound of a deer's light hoof. It's the sound of a deliberate, heavy weight. In the darkness, the audio records Nate's breathing stop. Utterly. He holds his breath. And in that vacuum of sound, the night suddenly feels immense and terrifying. He's listening. And I'm listening with him, my own breath caught in my throat, waiting for the next sound to come out of the black. The black screen holds for a long, long time. In the audio, after Nate's breath cuts out, there is nothing. Not the rustle of the tent, not the faint whisper of wind. It's a perfect, digital void. I've listened to it with the volume all the way up, headphones pressed so hard against my ears they hurt. There's nothing. He is holding his breath, and whatever is outside his tent is holding its breath too. It's a standoff in the dark, a contest of stillness. On the recording, it lasts for 1 minute and 12 seconds. An eternity. Then there's a sound. It's not another snap. It's the faintest, softest exhalation. It's Nate. He lets the air out of his lungs in a controlled, silent stream that the sensitive microphone barely picks up. Then, he takes another breath. just as carefully. For the next 34 minutes, until the file ends, that's all you can hear. The sound of a young man trying to breathe so quietly that no one will know he's there. He didn't sleep that night. There's no way he did. I know I wouldn't have. In my own bed, thousands of miles and years away from that night. Just listening to the tape makes me feel like I can't move a muscle. The next file is timestamped to the following morning, backquote at _day08_breakdown.mp4, backquote. The name is chillingly prophetic. He must have labeled it later. The sun is up, but it's a weak, watery light filtering through the canopy. The camera is on the ground, pointing up at Nate as he shoves his sleeping bag into its compression sack with frantic, jerky movements. He's already broken down the tent. Everything is scattered around him on the forest floor, a mess of gear he's trying to pack with a desperate urgency. He looks terrible. There are dark, purplish circles under his eyes, and his face is pale and clammy. He hasn't shaved. He just looks hunted. He doesn't talk to the camera. Not a word. The only sounds are his ragged breathing and the frantic rustling of his equipment. He's fumbling with straps, yanking zippers, his hands shaking slightly. At one point, he stops packing his cooking set and just stares into the trees, his head cocked. He stays like that for maybe 20 seconds before a violent shiver runs through his whole body and he forces himself back to the task. The freedom is gone. The joy is gone. This isn't an adventure anymore. This is a retreat. I know from his journal what he was thinking. The entry from that morning is short, the handwriting almost illegible. Day 8. Heard something last night. Right outside. Not an animal. I'm packing up. Not stopping until I reach the next shelter. Maybe I'll see someone there. Tell a ranger. This isn't right. The tooth. It was the tooth. I have to get off this part of the trail. Also, I think I dropped my blue microfiber cloth yesterday. The one I use for the lens. Can't find it anywhere. Probably snagged on a branch. Doesn't matter. Nothing matters but moving. He mentions the cloth so casually. A minor annoyance. A piece of lost gear. It's so mundane, so normal, stuck in the middle of his terror. When I first read the transcript, I barely registered it. Now, knowing what comes next, those sentences are some of the most horrifying things he ever wrote. He thought he lost it. He was wrong. It was taken. The next video clip is backquote at _day09_figure.mp4 backquote. The timestamp puts it a full day and a half later. Nate has clearly been pushing himself, covering a lot of ground. The terrain looks different, rockier. The video starts with the camera pointed at the trail ahead. It's a wider section of the path, dappled in sunlight. For a moment it looks almost peaceful. Nate is breathing heavily, the sound dominating the audio. He's walking with a purpose. Then he stops. He just stops, dead in his tracks. The camera remains pointed forward. For a few seconds, I couldn't see what he was looking at. It just looked like the trail. But this is where having high-definition files makes a difference. As his breathing stops, you can see the camera's autofocus adjust slightly. And there it is. Right in the center of the path, maybe 50 feet ahead of him. A small, strange object. The camera zooms in. The electronic whir of the lens sounds deafeningly loud. The image becomes clearer, shakier, now as Nate's hand trembles. It's a little figure, maybe a foot high, made of twisted, gnarled branches and bound together with vines. It's built to resemble a person walking, one leg forward, arms crooked as if holding invisible hiking poles. It's a crude, horrifying little piece of folk art, a stickman planted in the middle of nowhere. It's wrong. It's a violation. Something man-made and malevolent in the middle of all that green. In the video you hear Nate make a small, choked sound. A cross between a gasp and a sob. He takes a hesitant step forward. Then another. The camera moves with him, the image bouncing with his nervous steps. He gets closer, about 10 feet away now. He stops again. He knows. I think he knows before he even sees it clearly. There's a sense of dreadful inevitability to it. The camera zooms in again, pushing past the shaky branches that form the thing's head and torso. It zooms in on its shirt. It's a small, torn piece of fabric, wrapped around the stick figure's chest and tied in a knot at the back. It's a scrap of bright, royal blue microfiber. No, Nate whispers. His voice is thin, ravaged. No, 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 no. It's his cloth, his lens cloth, the one he thought he'd lost. This is the moment. This is the point of no return. The tooth was a mystery, a disturbing find. The snapped branch was a threat in the dark, something he could almost rationalize away. But this is a message. It's a statement. I was close enough to you to take this. I was right there when you dropped it, or maybe I took it from your pack while you slept. I have been watching you. I know you're here. And this is my game. The camera sways violently as Nate stumbles back a step. He lets out a ragged, terrified breath. Then, he does what any sane person would do. He whirls the camera around, a frantic 360-degree pan of the surrounding woods. The image is a dizzying blur of green and brown. He's looking for whoever did this. He's searching for the eyes he can now feel on his back. But there's nothing. Just the dense, silent, indifferent forest. It's a wall of trees in every direction. He's on an empty stage, and the audience is hidden just out of sight. Who's there? He screams. The sound is pathetic, swallowed by the wilderness. It's the desperate cry of a cornered animal. What do you want from me? There is no answer. Only the wind. He stands there for a full minute, the camera still pointing into the trees, his breathing coming in frantic, hyperventilating gulps. You can see the total breakdown of his composure. The film student is gone. The adventurer is gone. All that's left is a terrified 22-year-old, miles from help, who has just been shown, in the most personal and violating way possible, that he is not alone, that he's being toyed with. Finally, he turns and runs. The camera, still recording, is just a bouncing, chaotic mess of greens and browns and sky. You hear his frantic footsteps pounding on the hard earth, his gasps for air. He doesn't look back, he just runs. The file cuts out after about 30 seconds of this. The final file of the day is from inside the tent again. Backquote at _day09, _night, _whispers.mp4 backquote. It's utterly black, save for the tiny red recording light you can see reflected in something. Maybe his eye. The only light source is his headlamp, but it's on the dimmest possible setting. It casts a sickly, feeble glow on the nylon wall of the tent, just a few inches from his face. He's whispering. His voice is a ghost. I didn't stop, he rasps, the words tumbling over each other. I ran for, I don't know, hours. I just ran. I didn't even pick a spot. I couldn't go anymore. Threw the tent up. Didn't eat. A long pause. Just the sound of his shivering breath. They're playing with me. That's what this is. A game. They took my cloth. They must have been so close. So close. They built that thing. And they put it where they knew I'd find it. It wasn't there before. I would have seen it. They put it there for me. He shifts, and the camera rustles. He's probably clutching it, like a weapon. Or a confessor. Why? He whispers, and his voice breaks. It's an agonizing, quiet sound. What did I do? Is it the tooth? Do they want it back? They can have it. I'll leave it. I'll throw it away. I don't want it. He starts to sob, a quiet, muffled sound, trying to stifle it with his hand. The sound is terrifyingly intimate. I think I heard footsteps again. A little while ago. Just outside. So quiet. Walking a circle around the tent. Slowly. They know I'm in here. They know I'm listening. He leans closer to the camera, his whisper dropping even lower, more intense. They're just waiting. They're just waiting for me to fall asleep. What do they want? Please, what do you want? The camera stays on, recording his haunted, terrified face in the gloom. His eyes are wide, fixed on the thin wall of the tent, on the impenetrable darkness that lies just beyond it. He's waiting for the next sound, waiting for the game to enter its next stage. The video file keeps recording. He doesn't turn it off. I don't think he dares to move. The file keeps rolling. After Nate's final broken whisper, "What do you want?" the video just stays on that sliver of sickly yellow light on the tent wall. He doesn't move. He doesn't turn the camera off. He is transfigured by terror, a statue made of flesh and bone, and the only proof he's alive is the faint, ragged sound of his breathing. The sensitive microphone picks up every hitch, every shahavari of air entering and leaving his lungs. He's trying to be quiet, but he can't control the shivering. It's the sound of an animal that knows the predator is just outside the burrow. On the tape, this silence, this taut, listening silence, lasts for a terrifyingly long time. I timed it. 9 minutes and 41 seconds. 9 minutes of nothing but a young man's fear made audible. You can hear his sleeping bag rustle, a tiny nylon hiss, every time a new shudder racks his body. You can almost feel him in that tent, eyes wide in the oppressive dark, straining to hear, trying to parse every natural night sound, the sigh of the wind, the creak of a distant branch, from the unnatural one he knows is out there. The one that was walking in circles. I've listened to this segment more times than I can count, with headphones on. In a dark room, you can drive yourself mad doing that. You start to hear things that aren't there. You imagine a footstep in the aural static. But there's nothing. Whoever was out there is either gone, or they are standing perfectly, inhumanly still, waiting, knowing he's in there, knowing he's awake and listening. The psychological pressure of it is immense. He's not being attacked. He's being dismantled, piece by piece. And then, after 9 minutes and 41 seconds of this auditory purgatory, a sound breaks the night. It's not a twig snap. It's not a footstep. It's a whistle. It comes from a distance, somewhere out in the trees to his right. And the thing is, it's not a menacing sound on its own. It's clear, melodic, and perfectly pitched. A short, simple little tune, only a few bars long. It's the kind of thing you'd hear a happy hiker whistle as they walked, or a kid on their way home from school. But in that context, in the dead of night after everything that's happened, it's the most monstrous sound in the world. On the tape you hear Nate's breath catch in his throat. It's a sharp, painful gasp. He knows the tune. I know it too now. I had to ask his parents when I showed them the footage. I had to pause the video and ask them, does this melody mean anything to you? His mother started to cry. It was from an old folk song his grandfather used to sing to him when he was a little boy. The same one Nate had mentioned in his very first video log on day one, that he sometimes hummed to himself to keep a steady pace. A private, happy memory. And someone in the dark, in the middle of the Appalachian wilderness, was whistling it back to him. The first rendition hangs in the air for a moment, then fades. Silence rushes back in, heavier this time, charged with a new and specific horror. This isn't random. This isn't a cougar or a bear. This isn't even just a creep following him. This is someone who knows him. Or at least, they've been watching him long enough, close enough, to steal not just a piece of his gear but a piece of his memory. A piece of his soul. Nate makes a small, whimpering sound, like a kicked dog. He's trying to suppress it, but the microphone is inches from his face. It picks up everything. Then it happens again. The same tune, whistled with the same eerie precision, but this time it comes from a different direction. From his left, further back. As if the first person had a partner. The first whistle had been a statement. This second one is a confirmation. We are here. And we're on both sides of you. Nate's breathing dissolves into a frantic, hyperventilating rhythm. You can hear the rustle of the sleeping bag as he curls himself into a tighter ball, trying to make himself smaller, trying to disappear. And then, a third whistle. In front of him. Much closer this time. It feels like it's just beyond the thin nylon wall of the tent. It's so clear you can almost hear the wetness of the lips forming the notes. It's a perfect, lilting, mocking echo of the first two. A triangle of sound, with Nate trapped in the center. That's when he breaks. They're everywhere, he chokes out, his voice a ragged whisper, cracking with tears he's trying to hold back. Oh God, no, they're everywhere. The camera lurches. In the feeble glow of his headlamp, you see the tent wall rush towards the lens, and then pull back. He's moving. There's the sound of a zipper, pulled with a trembling, hesitant hand. He's opening a tiny slit in the tent door, just enough to poke the lens through. He's trying to see. He's trying to give his terror a face. The footage that follows is 5 minutes of almost total blackness. He pans the camera slowly, first to the right, where the first whistle came from. Nothing. Just impenetrable black shapes that you know are trees. He pans to the left. Nothing. Just more darkness. The world has been reduced to a soundstage for his torment, and the performers remain invisible. All you can hear is Nate's frantic, shallow breathing and the almost impossibly loud sound of the wind. The whistling starts again. This time, it's a coordinated performance. The first whistler starts the tune. As they finish, the second one picks it up immediately. Then the third. They pass the melody around him, a circular, rotating nightmare of sound. They are playing with him. They are an orchestra of terror, and he is the sole, captive audience. They are demonstrating their control, their numbers, their complete dominance over his environment. The Liu, his only shelter, feels as protective as a soap bubble. Please, Nate sobs into the microphone. It's not for the camera anymore. He's pleading with them. Please stop. What do you want? I'll give you the tooth. I'll leave everything. Just please, stop. His pleas are met with another round of the whistling, this time a little faster, a little more jaunty. It's a game. A cruel, sadistic game. They are feeding on his fear. His terror is their entertainment. He pulls the camera back inside the tent and zips it shut. The sound of the zipper is frantic, final. He's sealing himself back in his tomb. He collapses back into his sleeping bag, and the camera points up at the dark roof of the tent. All you can hear are his muffled sobs and the relentless, mocking tune circling his camp. It goes on and on. The repetition is the worst part. It's designed to grind him down, to erase any hope that this might end, that he might have imagined it. It's a loop of psychological torture. Then, just as abruptly as it began, it stops. The third whistler, the one closest to him, cuts off in the middle of a note. The silence that follows is the loudest thing on the entire tape. It's a deafening, profound void. The absence of the whistle is more terrifying than its presence was. What does it mean? Are they gone? Or are they just preparing for the next stage of the game? Nate's breathing has stopped completely. He's holding it, listening. Every nerve in his body, every fiber of his being, is focused on the world just outside that thin wall of fabric. The tape records 1 full minute of this absolute heart-stopping silence. A minute feels like a lifetime. You find yourself holding your own breath as you listen, waiting for the other shoe to drop. You can hear nothing but the faint electronic hum of the camera's internal workings. And then, a new sound. It's not a whistle. It's a voice, a dry, rasping whisper. And it's not from a distance. It's not from the trees. It's right there. It sounds like someone has their lips pressed against the outside of the tent, right next to where the camera and Nate's head must be. The audio is so clear, so intimate, it feels like a violation. Sleep well, Nate. There's a sudden, sharp clatter, the sound of the camera being dropped. The view lurches violently, showing a blurry close-up of the crumpled sleeping bag, and then the screen goes black as the lens hits the floor of the tent. The audio keeps recording for 2 more seconds. 2 seconds of utter, dead silence before the file ends. That last file cuts off, and for a long moment, there's nothing. Just the hiss of the laptop's fan in my quiet office. The silence Nate was so terrified of has now swallowed his story whole. You're left staring at a black screen, the audio player at the end of its track, and the sheer finality of it hits you like a physical blow. A whisper, a clatter, then nothing. Where do you go from there? What do you do with that kind of silence? For a while we thought that was it. That whatever happened, happened in that tent. That he died of fright, or that the thing, whatever it was, got to him right there. That would have been cleaner in a way. But there was another video file, and there was the journal. He didn't sleep. I don't think any human being could have slept after that. The next entry in his journal is a testament to a mind coming apart at the seams. It wasn't written first thing in the morning. The time he scribbled in the margin is 3:47 a.m. The page is stained with what looks like sweat, maybe tears. The handwriting, usually so neat and considered, is a frantic, jagged scrawl that digs into the paper. It's barely legible. They know my name. They know my name. Something was touching the tent, right by my head, whispering. Not a dream. Not a dream. I can't stay here. I can't scream. They're still out there. I can hear them breathing. Or maybe it's just me. Can't tell anymore. Sun up. Run. Just run. The video that follows confirms it. The timestamp shows it was filmed, just as the first gray, sickly light of dawn started filtering through the trees. The file is named morning.mp4. The camera is on, but it's sitting on the floor of the tent, pointed at the door. You can see Nate's silhouette moving in a frenzy. He's not packing carefully like he did in the early videos. He's just shoving things into his backpack. A sleeping bag is crammed in, half spilling out. Pots and pans clatter. It's the sound of pure, animal panic. He's not thinking about weight distribution or efficiency. He's thinking about a head start. He doesn't speak for a full 10 minutes. The only sounds are his ragged breathing and the frantic rustling of his gear. He's moving like a cornered rat. Twice, he stops dead, frozen, listening. His head snaps towards the tent wall, and he holds his breath. You hold yours with him. But there's nothing. Just the indifferent morning sounds of the forest. Maybe they were gone. Or maybe they were just enjoying the show. Finally, he zips up the backpack, shoulders it, and grabs the camera. The view lurches outside. The morning is misty and cold. The air looks heavy, damp, and the first thing he focuses on, the first thing he gives us a clear shot of, is his campsite, or what's left of it. His meticulously arranged fire pit from the night before has been completely dismantled. The stones have been used to form a crude, spiral pattern on the ground, with a small pile of blackened twigs in the center. It's a deliberate desecration. It's a message. We were here. We can do whatever we want. He pans the camera around, breathing hard. Then he walks, almost stumbling, towards where the trail marker should be, and he finds it, a simple wooden post with a white blaze painted on it. Except it's not pointing down the trail. Someone has ripped it out of the ground and jammed it back in, pointing 90 degrees to the left, straight into a thick, tangled wall of undergrowth where there is no path at all. No, Nate whispers, his first word of the day. It's a choked, defeated sound. No, no, no. He knows he can't trust the markers anymore. He knows he's being herded. His plan, his map, his entire project is useless now. He's just a man in a hostile maze. He turns and stumbles towards the small, clear stream he'd scouted the day before. His water bottles are empty. He needs to refill them. He needs to think. When he gets to the stream, he stops so abruptly the camera almost falls from his hand. He lets out a small, gagging sound. The water isn't clear anymore. Someone has dumped something into the narrow, clear-running creek just upstream from his position. The video shows it clearly. A thick, black, oily sludge is bleeding into the water, turning it a putrid, opaque gray. You can almost smell it through the screen. A foul, rotting stench like swamp mud and something chemical. His only source of safe water is gone. Poisoned. This is the moment, I think, where the last bit of Nate, the hiker, the student, the optimistic kid, dies. He's not a hiker anymore, he's prey. He's being systematically cut off, isolated, and driven mad before the kill. They aren't just trying to catch him, they are trying to break him first. He turns the camera on himself. For a second, it's a shocking sight. His face is pale, his eyes are wide and bloodshot, sunken into his skull. He looks like he's aged 10 years overnight. There are scratches on his cheek he doesn't seem to have noticed. He doesn't say anything. He just looks into the lens, and the expression on his face is one of such profound, hopeless terror that I have to look away from the screen every time I watch it. Then, he turns the camera off. There's a gap of several hours. There are no more journal entries. Whatever he did, wherever he went, he didn't record it. He was just trying to survive. The final file is the one the Rangers found on the camera. It's labeled _270_miles.mov. Not a real title. It's the default name the camera assigns. He didn't have time to change it. The metadata tells us it was recorded at 6:52 p.m. The sun was going down. The file opens to chaos. It's just pure, violent motion. The world is a blurry, shaking mess of greens and browns. The camera is bouncing, held in a desperate, running grip. All you can hear is the frantic, percussive sound of Nate's own feet crashing through dry leaves and snapping twigs, and the sound of his breathing. It's not just the gasp of exertion. It's a sound torn from the deepest parts of his lungs, a horrifying, sobbing, hyperventilating rhythm. He's been running for a long time. He's off the trail, deep in the woods. The trees are closing in. As the light fails, their branches look like grasping arms. He's running for his life. Please, he screams, and his voice is shredded, raw. It's a sound you feel in your bones. Just leave me alone, please. The camera swings wildly as he risks a look over his shoulder. The footage shows nothing but more trees, more deepening gloom. There's no sound of pursuit. That's the part that gets you. He's not running from something he hears. He's running from something he knows is there. The same way a gazelle knows the lion is in the grass. I don't have anything, he cries, the words punctuated by desperate, catching sobs. I'll leave it all, just let me go, please. He's pleading with the trees, with the air, with the unseen thing that has been his shadow for days. His pleas echo for a second in the twilight woods, and are answered only by the sound of his own crashing footsteps. And then it happens. He's looking forward again. his eyes scanning the treacherous ground. But you can't run at full tilt through a forest without looking where you're going. Nor can you outrun a nightmare. A dark, thick root, coiled across the forest floor like a serpent, catches his foot. The camera records the fall with sickening fidelity. The world tilts, spins violently. A whirl of sky, then leaves, then earth, and then there's a loud, muffled thud as the camera hits the leaf litter. It lands on its side, but the lens is still pointing up, askew. The view is stationary now. It's a fixed, helpless perspective. In the frame, you can see Nate. He's on the ground, maybe 10 feet away. He landed hard. You hear him groan, a sound of agony and despair. For a second, he just lies there, his chest heaving. Then, survival instinct kicks back in. He can't get up. His leg must be hurt. He starts to crawl, dragging himself through the leaves, pushing himself forward with his hands. Gaining an inch, then another, he's trying to get back on his feet. He manages to push himself up onto his hands and knees. He's in the upper half of the frame now, a blurry silhouette against the last dying light. He's trying to stand. And that's when it appears. From the bottom right corner of the screen, from a place just outside the camera's view, a hand enters the frame. It's not a normal hand. You know that instantly. It's skeletal, thin. The skin, a pale, waxy color that looks wrong, caked with dirt and grime. It looks more like a claw. And the fingernails, they are long, broken and black with filth, like the talons of some burrowing animal. It moves with a slow, deliberate certainty. It doesn't lunge. It just reaches. It moves across the leaf-strewn ground, an obscene spider crawling into the light. Nate doesn't see it. He's still trying to get his feet under him, his back to it. The hand reaches his boot. It pauses for a single, horrifying beat. Then, the fingers, bony and unnaturally long, wrap themselves around his ankle. The grip is instant and absolute. Nate's body goes rigid. He feels it. He looks down. The scream that comes out of him is not human. It is the sound of a soul being ripped from its body. It's a high, piercing shriek of pure, undiluted terror and pain that cuts through the woods. The hand yanks, hard. Nate is pulled off his feet, as if he weighs nothing. His scream is choked off as he hits the ground again. And then he is dragged, backwards, out of the frame. He disappears into the dark tangle of bushes from where the hand came. The camera keeps rolling. His scream is gone, but the sound isn't. You can hear him being dragged away. It's a ghastly, wet, rustling sound. The sound of a body, his body, being hauled through the undergrowth. You can hear branches snapping, his clothes tearing. There are no more words, just a low, continuous moaning that grows fainter and fainter. That sound, the dragging, goes on for what feels like an eternity. It's 53 seconds, I counted. 53 seconds of listening to a young man being pulled into the darkness to his doom. The rustling gets quieter, more distant, until finally, you can't distinguish it from the wind in the leaves. Then, there is only silence. The camera stays on that empty patch of woods. The leaves, disturbed by the struggle, slowly settle. The twilight fades completely. The image gets grainy, loses color, sinks into near-total blackness. It records 30 more seconds of that profound, empty, terrible darkness. And then the file ends. 2 weeks. That's how long the woods kept their secret. For 14 days, Nate's story just ended. The final file cut out into blackness, and that was it. His parents had reported him overdue, of course. He was supposed to check in from a ranger station at the end of week 3. When he didn't, the initial calls were made. But the Appalachian Trail is a big place. People get delayed, they change their plans. For the first few days there was concern, but not yet panic. Panic came later. The break in the case didn't come from some high-tech GPS ping or a frantic search effort. It came from a man named Bill Matheson, a park ranger with 30 years on the job, walking a routine patrol on a little used access trail meant for maintenance crews. He was 10, maybe 12 miles from the main Appalachian Trail, down in a rocky gorge where a creek had run dry from the late summer heat. He wasn't looking for a missing person. He was looking for signs of illegal poaching or campsites. What he found was a splash of synthetic blue against the brown and gray of the creek bed. It was the camera, Nate's camera. It was wedged between 2 rocks, the case cracked, the lens thankfully pointing down. A few feet away, tucked under an overhang as if placed there for safekeeping, was the journal. The leather cover was damp and swollen, but it was intact. Bill knew about the missing hiker alert. He knew the name, Nathan Clark. He radioed it in immediately, and within a few hours, that quiet, forgotten gorge turned into the nerve center for one of the largest search and rescue operations that part of the state had ever seen. You have to understand the scale of it. They brought in canine units from 3 states. The dogs would follow a scent for 100 yards and then just get confused, circling aimlessly as if the trail had been washed away by a ghost. They flew helicopters with thermal imaging cameras over the canopy, night after night, searching for a flicker of body heat. They found deer, bears, the occasional couple camping where they shouldn't be. They never found Nate. Scores of volunteers, good people with hiking experience, formed grid lines and swept through the woods, calling his name until their throats were raw. They found a single trekking pole, bent almost in half, snagged in a thicket a mile from where the camera was discovered. They found his rain poncho, ripped to shreds, scattered over a 50-yard area, as if it had been torn off him in a violent struggle. But they never found him. After another week of that, the official search was scaled down. You can't search 1,000,000 acres of wilderness forever. Nate was officially declared missing, presumed deceased. Another tragedy on the trail. A terrible accident, the official report would eventually conclude. He probably got lost, disoriented, succumbed to exposure or a fall. It was a neat, tidy explanation that let everyone sleep at night. Everyone except us. We were in a small, windowless room at the state police barracks. The kind of room they use for reviewing sensitive material. No distractions. Just a long table, a few uncomfortable chairs, and a large monitor hooked up to a laptop. On the table were the 2 items Bill Matheson had found, the camera and the journal. The journal was a mess. We'd had to carefully separate the pages, which were warped and stuck together. The last few entries were nearly impossible to read, a frantic scrawl that spoke of pure terror. But the video files, miraculously, were mostly intact on the SD card. There were 3 of us. Detective Miller, a veteran with tired eyes who'd seen too much. A young tech analyst named Chloe, who could probably make a toaster spit out state secrets. And me. I was there because I'd known Nate in a few film classes. They thought maybe I could provide some context, some insight into his personality. Really, I was just there to watch a friend's last moments on Earth. We watched them all. In order. We saw the bright-eyed, optimistic Nate at the start of his journey, grinning into the lens, talking about finding himself. It felt like watching a ghost. We saw his easy confidence start to fray. We saw the video where he found the tooth on the leather cord. That was the first time Miller paused the footage. "Hold on," he said, leaning forward. "Go back a few seconds, Chloe." Chloe's fingers danced over the keyboard. The image rewound, showing Nate's hand holding the strange object up to the camera. "That's it," Miller grunted. "Just weird." We kept going. We saw the stick figure with his stolen piece of cloth. We heard the whistling in the dark. The poison stream. We watched the file named "morning.mp4", the one where he packs in a blind panic. And we all held our breath with him. Then came the last file, the one the camera hadn't had a name for. "270_miles.mov". Even knowing what was coming, it was brutal. The chaotic run, the sobbing pleas, the fall. That god-awful scream. When the hand came into frame, Chloe let out a small gasp and physically recoiled from the screen. Miller just sat there, his face like stone, his jaw tight. We watched Nate get dragged out of frame. We listened to the 53 seconds of rustling, the sound of a human life being pulled into oblivion. And then, the silence. The long, black, empty silence at the end of the file. Nobody spoke for a long time. The only sound was the low hum of the computer's cooling fan. "Play it again," Miller finally said, his voice quiet but firm. "The last one." We watched it again, and again. We were looking for anything, a glimpse of the person attached to that hand. A sound that wasn't Nate or the forest. Something, anything. There was nothing. It was just a clean, efficient, monstrous act. "There's nothing there," I said, my voice hoarse. "It's a dead end." "Maybe," Miller said, rubbing his eyes. "Chloe, go back, all the way back, to the first sign of trouble, the tooth video." "What are we looking for, sir?" she asked. "I don't know, a shadow, anything that looks out of place. Humor me." So we went back. Back to a sunnier time, a happier Nate. There he was, holding up the tooth, a nervous joke on his lips. He was standing in a small clearing, the sun filtering through the canopy behind him. He was excited, a little creeped out, but still the adventurous student. He was still in control of his story. "I find this weird little tooth thing," his voice said from the speakers. He turns it over in his fingers. "Creepy, huh?" "Stop! Right there!" Chloe said, her voice suddenly sharp. She wasn't looking at the tooth. She was staring at the background. "What is it?" Miller asked, leaning in. "Behind him. To the left of his head. In that deep patch of shadows between those two big oaks." I squinted. It just looked like darkness, a thick, inky patch of shadow where the foliage was dense. "I don't see anything," I said. "Neither do I," Chloe admitted. "But the shape of the darkness is wrong. It's too solid." She started typing again. A series of windows popped up on the screen. "I'm going to try to isolate that section and punch up the exposure. Pull whatever detail I can out of the black." The screen changed. A square selection appeared over the patch of shadow. Chloe manipulated a few sliders. At first the darkness just turned into a messy, pixelated gray. It was like trying to find a face in TV static. "Give it a second," she murmured, more to herself than to us. "The algorithm needs to process the surrounding light information." Slowly, agonizingly, the pixels began to resolve. The gray noise started to coalesce. It was like one of those magic eye pictures, where you have to unfocus your vision to see the hidden image. A shape began to emerge from the digital murk. It wasn't a branch. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was a figure. It was undeniably human in shape, standing perfectly still. It was tall and unnervingly thin, but it was standing upright, straight as a post, partially obscured by a tree trunk. We couldn't see a face, no features at all. It was just a silhouette, a void in the shape of a man, watching from the deep shade, immobile, silent, patient. A cold wave washed over me, so intense I felt dizzy. Miller let out a slow breath that sounded like a tire deflating. "My God," he whispered. The Nate on the screen had no idea. He was right there, a few dozen feet away, smiling his nervous smile, talking to his camera. He was the center of his own world, documenting his grand adventure. And in the background, completely unnoticed, the thing that would eventually hunt him down and drag him into the dark was already there. It was watching him. It was studying him. It had been there the whole time. The whole thing, the stick figures, the whistling, the poisoned water. It wasn't a random escalation. It wasn't a monster that Nate had accidentally provoked by picking up some cursed totem. The tooth wasn't the cause. It was just a prop. It was the opening move in a game that had started the second Nate stepped into its territory. In that sunlit, cheerful moment, when Nate believed he was embarking on a journey of self-discovery and freedom, he was already in the cage. The door had already been locked. He just didn't know it yet. He wasn't a hiker who made a mistake. He was, and always had been from that moment on, simply the chosen prey.